So welcome back to another video on the channel. I hope you're all doing tremendously well. In today's video, what I want to talk about is my biggest failures to date in my agency. People may watch my YouTube, you may watch my videos, and you may think that, you know, I'm this like perfect agency owner, but be very honest, be very open. I'm not. I've made so many mistakes. As I say in this video, I want to discuss those mistakes so that you don't have to make them, which hopefully will enable you to grow quicker because you can just maneuver around the failures that I had to make, which then prolonged my growth in the agency. And I want to make this video so that you don't have to make those mistakes. As always, if you enjoy this type of content, please smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. And with that being said, let's get into it. So I want to dive straight into the juicy stuff, right? So the first mistake, and this is something really that I've only not very recently, like in the last few months, I've really started to implement into my agency. So not only, you know, these mistakes aren't stuff that I made on day one, right? This is stuff that I've made for a long period of time. As I say, I'm not a perfect agency owner, unfortunately. So it was only till recently that I actually fixed this mistake, if you like. And what that was is I was a cog in the machine for far too long. What does that mean? Well, in a machine, right? Well, in a machine, if you think about a warehouse, right? There's got these machines running, right? And you have cogs in the machine that just spin all day long. But if that cog doesn't spin, the machine won't work. But if that cog on its own spins without anything else working, then again, the machine won't work, right? So these cogs have to spin. They have to keep going. They have to keep going. They have to keep doing whatever the thing is, right? In order for the machine to work. But that cog doesn't really play a part in the effectiveness of the machine. It just plays a part in the machine actually working or not. Well, for example, if you're running your agency and let's say you're doing service delivery for clients. Well, service delivery, the delivery of the service is a cog in the machine. You have to deliver the service, right? For the machine to actually run, for the machine to actually work. But you delivering the service isn't enabling your agency to grow in any way, shape, or form. And so if you're focusing on delivering your service, you're just spinning your wheels, right? And there's so many other areas in the agency that follow that same concept. They have to be implemented on. It has to be done, otherwise the machine won't work. The agency, you won't have an agency, right? Because clients will be paying you and then they'll request a refund because you've not delivered whatever it is. Or, you know, there's other areas as well, for example, sales calls and whatnot. They have to be implemented on for the machine to work, but it doesn't impact the growth of your agency, right? I would even argue that sales calls don't really impact the growth of your agency. And that may sound quite like, you know, ridiculous. It's like sales calls, what they don't impact the growth. In my opinion, they don't. Because if you take a sales call, right, if you spend an hour on a sales call, you may sign a client, right? Perfect. But what do you do next? How do you then ensure that you've got another sales call after that and another one after that and another one after that and another one after that? So then it's a step back further than that. It's like, okay, cool. Well, what generates those sales calls? Well, that's where my focus should be because that's what impacts the growth of the agency, right? And so tying this back into the mistakes that I've made, I was a cog in the machine for far too long. And at the moment, our clients are getting the best results they've ever gotten, right? The agency is growing quicker than it's ever grown. We're having more calls than we've ever had. We're signing more clients. And as I say, ultimately, our clients are getting the best results that they've ever gotten. And right now is the point in which I've least involved in the agency. I've never been more detached from my agency than I am right now. Yet we're doing better than we've ever done. How is that? Well, it's because, again, I've integrated a team into the agency, right? And so now my focus is more on my team's output, more so than it is on the actual agency itself, on the cogs in the machine. And so this isn't going to be as applicable to you if you're just starting out, right? If you've got your first client or whatever, you have to be a cog, right? You have to be delivering the service. You have to be doing everything. But as soon as you hit that 10,000 a month, 20,000 a month, 30,000 a month stage, the number one thing you can do to increase your agency, the number one thing that you can do to get to that next level, to get to that, 50,000, 80,000, 100,000 per month, you have to detach yourself, but you have to obviously do it in a way where the agency still grows without you. And so then that becomes your focus. How can I detach myself and ensure that clients are getting better results and we're still growing? That becomes a focus, that becomes the issue, right? And so that's where you need to be spending all of your time, not in ad accounts. Guys, I've not been in an ad account for I don't know, maybe a year or something, year and a half maybe, right? I've not been in ad accounts for ages. And so if you're an agency owner and you're at 10,000, 20,000 a month and you're in ad accounts, it's an issue. If you're at, 30, 40, 50,000 a month and you're taking even demo calls, right, with prospects, that's an issue because you're just doing that thing that's just keeping the machine going. You're not focusing on the growth of the agency. So that was the first thing. That was like a big, not a mistake, but like just something that I was not able to see when I was, going up, right? I was at 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 50,000, etc. When I was going up, I wasn't able to see that, as I say, until really a couple months ago. And now that I've detached myself, now the agency is in a place where it's delivering better results and we're signing more clients and clients are just crushing it, right? Way more than they were before. So it's kind of ironic how that plays out. And as I say, I jump on 3 calls a week for the agency, and those calls probably last 30 minutes each. So it's like an hour and a half, right? That's it. That's literally it. So it's a good place to be at, and as I say, it really helps with the growth. So that was the first mistake, if you like. The second mistake that I see, and I made this, and this was more early on, right? This was more when I was trying to get my first few clients. I was trying to get to 10,000 and whatnot. It's the idea of inputs and outputs. So if you are more of a beginner, you got no clients just yet, whatever it may be, that's totally cool. And this point is going to apply to you more so than the first point. As I say, this is the idea of inputs and outputs. So when I started out, I had the goal of hitting 10,000 a month. I think every agency owner who starts, they want to hit 10,000 a month, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's dope. I love that, right? But if you fixate on that 10,000 per month goal, you won't actually hit it. And actually, the less you fixate on the goal, the more likely you are to actually hit it. Let me explain. This is not any type of manifestation and this and that. It's got nothing to do with that. It's got everything to do with inputs and outputs. So if you're wanting to hit that 10,000 a month, right? The output in that case is an agency at 10,000 a month. That's the output. But guess what? If you focus and you fixate on having an agency that produces $10,000 per month, how on earth are you gonna get there, right? If all of your focus and energy goes on, oh my God, I want this agency that's hitting 10,000 a month, how are you gonna get there? So you need to understand what the output is that you want. I'm not saying don't think about what output you want. 100% set a goal, right? I'm all for that, right? I have a goal right now of 500,000 a month, which is 6 mil a year. So that's my goal. That's my output that I want to have. But I don't sit down all day and just fixate on that goal because I know I won't get there. What I do is I reverse engineer the goal, right? So I want to hit 500,000 a month. Well, how am I going to do that? 500,000 a month is a big number. If you're just starting out, then 10,000 a month is a big number. I remember when I first started, I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I'm gonna hit 10,000. Like, that's so much money. Like, that's what doctors make when they come out of uni after going to uni for like 8 years. They don't even make that, right? 120,000 a year. I think doctors come out and they make like 80,000 or some shit, right? It's crazy. So it's, 10,000 a month is such a big number. How am I gonna hit that? Well, you need to reverse engineer it, right? You need to look at the path that you need to take that will, just mathematically get you to that number. For example, with me hitting 500,000, it's kind of split across a few different businesses, but I look at each business. Okay, what do I need to make from this, and this? Well, I need to do X, Y, Z. Okay, cool, across these 3 businesses. Perfect. Well, in each business, how am I gonna make this, and this? Well, what are my KPIs? Well, my KPIs are calls. My KPIs are results. Right? Okay, cool. So now how are we going to get that number of book calls per month? Well, we do this, and this. Perfect. Let's start doing that, and that. Now, how are we going to get those results each and every month for our clients or customers? Well, maybe we could do this and that's going to increase results. Perfect. Let's do that. Right? So you're thinking about the output, but as soon as you've thought about the output, you instantly reverse engineer so that you then get equipped with a bunch of inputs that you can actually take action on. And it's the inputs that you ought to fixate and focus on, because guess what? The inputs depict the outputs. If you sit down all day at your desk and you don't do anything, guess what your output's going to be? Nothing. But if you sit down at your desk each and every day and you focus consistently on actioning on the right inputs, you send X amount of emails, you send X amount of messages, you do X amount of pieces of content, you do this, you do that, well, your outputs are going to be significantly higher depending on your numbers and your percentages and whatnot, your conversion rates, all that good stuff, right? So that's, even on the topic of conversion rates, if you are a beginner, right? And again, as I say, I did this very much so when I was starting out. I fixated on 10,000 a month and I failed to realize that I needed to reverse engineer that goal and see what the inputs were I needed to make that were actually going to get me to 10,000 a month. So if you're a beginner right now, maybe you got 1 or 2 clients or no clients, whatever it is, or maybe you're at 10,000 a month and your output is a 50,000 a month agency, whatever it is, look either your current numbers, right? So if, for example, you have an organic client attraction system, right? And for every single story post that you make, you get at least 2 sales calls and you make 6 posts a day, right? So you're getting 12 calls per day in theory, right? Cool. Now, out of every 12 calls, 4 are not qualified, 1 doesn't show up, whatever it is. But out of 12 calls, I end up with usually 1 client. Well, in that instance, you've got your output of 1 client. And that output is going to get you closer to the ultimate end output of 10,000 a month. Well, now you just need to make sure that you're focusing on doing your story post. You're not really focusing on where you're at in terms of I'm at 5,000, I'm at 6,000, I'm at 7,000. Don't focus on that, because guess what? As soon as you start focusing on that, you're going to forget to do your story post. You're going to forget to do the input that actually produces the output. Again, it's the same thing for, even if you have like an email outreach system, right? And you know that you get around a 3% meeting book rate, right? And you're sending 100 emails per week at the moment. So that means that you're getting 12 calls a month, right? 100 emails a week, 3% meeting book rate means 3 meetings per week, 3 times 4 over the course of a month, 12 meetings per month. And out of those 12 meetings per month, you get 1 client, right? Now, then in that instance, with your churn rate as well, right? So like how long do clients stay on for? What's your retention rate? So then you can work it out based on pure hard maths. Right? If I continue going at this rate, signing 1 client per month and having 1 client drop off every 2 months, well, it's going to take me X amount of months to hit $10,000 per month, right? To have a 10K per month agency. Okay, cool. Well, what's the number one way that you can decrease that time frame, right? If you've worked out your numbers right now and it's like in the next 6 months, based on my current numbers, I will have a 10K per month agency. Well, how can I bring that down to 3 months? Well, there's a few ways to do it. Either double the amount of book calls that you have. So instead of having 12 per month, have 24 per month. How do you do that? If you have a 3% conversion rate, well, stop sending 100 emails a week and start sending 200 emails a week. Double your touch points that you make, right? And if you have a 3% meeting book rate, well, now you're going to go from 3 calls a week to 6 calls a week, which is 24 calls a month, right? Provided all your conversion rates are exactly the same. Well, now you should be able to sign, instead of 1 client a month, 2 clients a month, right? And then from there, your journey from 0 to 10,000 per month will go from 6 months down to 3 months, right? Or you can decrease the amount of clients who leave, right? So if, for example, you've worked out that your churn rate is X and so by you including that churn rate into how long it's going to take you to hit 10K a month, if you're then able to halve the amount of clients who leave, well, that means you're going to double the amount of clients who stay. So now you don't need to sign as many clients because now more clients are staying with you, right? If you sign 2 clients a month, but 1 drops off every single month, well, really you're only signing 1 client a month. But if you decrease that 1 client dropping off every single month, now you're actually going to net 2 clients a month, which means you're going to double your agency. So then from there, you'll go from 6 months to 3 months, right? So there's so many ways to go about this formula, and it's such an important thing to do. But at no point did we focus on the outputs in that situation, right? We said, okay, cool, looking at our numbers right now, we're going to have a 10K per month agency in 6 months, but then we instantly reverse engineered that and looked at the inputs. Well, how can we make that 6 months to 3 months? How can we make the 3 months to 1.5 months? Well, now we need to triple our numbers, right? Instead of 3 calls a week, we go to 6 calls a week. Well, that's still 3 months. Well, how can we go to 1.5 months? Well, now we need to go to 9 calls a week. How do we go to 9 calls a week? Well, we tripled our outreach, right? Whilst maintaining our conversion rate. So it all comes down to inputs, and your inputs depict your outputs. So stop focusing on the output, start focusing on the inputs. And here's another really important point for beginners, like beginners, like, maybe you have no experience or you have obviously no clients. One of the big things that I failed to do when I was starting out at that point, like the very, very beginning, I didn't really know too much about the business model. I didn't really know exactly how I was going to grow. I didn't really know the ins and outs of working with a client, of delivering the service and whatnot. I had 0 clients, I had no experience, etc., no past results. I was way too picky. And there's that idea of cash flow is king, or cash is king, right? And I 100% agree with that, but I think it's even more important when you're starting out. And I don't mean in terms of reserves. What I mean is in terms of acquiring it. Like, acquiring cash when you're starting out is far more important than trying to ensure that you're working with the perfect client. Now, the reason I say this is because yes, the cash is cool, but what the cash inevitably provides you as a beginner is experience, right? Because if you're able to acquire cash from a client, well, that means now you're going to have to deliver some sort of service. Now, by virtue of you delivering that service, guess what? You're going to build experience. That's going to now provide you a reference point for later on. Oh, when I worked with that client, we did this. Okay, cool. Let's try that with this new client then, right? It's going to give you those reference points. It's going to enable you to build that experience. And when you're starting out, experience is very, very important. And so if that means for you to acquire that experience, you need to work with a not as qualified client, or you need to provide a service that isn't exactly what it is that you want to do. Or it means that you sign a client in a niche that isn't quite the niche you want to work with, but that's going to provide you some experience, that's going to give you some experience, I will take that all day, every day, right? Well, I would take that if I was to go back and start from zero and I had no experience. That is exactly what I would do. I would just take it on board, because that experience is way more valuable to you as a beginner agency owner than any cash that you could get, right? You could sign a 2,000 per month client. That's really cool. You sign a 2K per month client. But guess what? If you sign a 2K per month client and it's in a niche that you're not interested in working with, right? Maybe you want to get into the e-commerce niche, but a real estate agent comes to you and say, hey, can you run my ads, right? I literally had this yesterday at jiu-jitsu. It was end of class. We did some rolling. I rolled with this purple belt, right? And he was speaking to me. He was like, hey man, like, have you been coming down a lot recently? I was like, yeah, I've come down like 7 times a week, Monday to Friday, every single day. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, I actually double up. So I do 2 training sessions, so 7 times a week. He's like, yeah, man, I can really tell, like, you're moving so well, like you can seeing a lot more things and whatnot. It's like, oh dude, I deeply appreciate that. He's like, yeah, so what do you do? It's like, oh, I run ads. I've got an ads agency. He's like, oh, okay, like, who do you do that for? And I was like, oh, e-commerce businesses. And he was like, oh, cool, do you do it for real estate agents, right? And then we got talking and I realized he was a real estate agent and he was asking me if I run ads for real estate agents. And obviously I said to him, no, we don't, right? Because we, our niche is e-commerce and we've got the experience now. However, if you are a beginning agency owner and you was in my position in like yesterday in the gym, right? You was in my position and he started to ask you about your ads agency and you're a beginner agency owner, but you want to get into the e-commerce niche, but he says, do you run ads for real estate agents? In that case, you would not want to be picky like I was, right? You say, yeah, look, I want to go into the e-commerce niche, but 100% we can run ads for real estate agents. It's actually really easy, at least for a local lead gen is much easier than e-commerce. So in that case, you would want to try and set up a meeting, right? Because the experience is way more important. It's way more valuable to you than trying to cherry pick who you work with when you're very, very first starting out. As you sign a few more clients, you want to be more strict with who you work with, because ultimately that depicts the results that you get. But when you're first starting out, that experience is so much more valuable, because guess what? If you was able to set a meeting with him being the real estate agent, and maybe you didn't even sign him, right? It just didn't work out, but you now have that experience of being in a meeting, of trying to do your sales and whatnot. And then the following day, through your email outreach, or your direct messages or whatever, an e-commerce business says, hey, yeah, let's jump on a call. Guess what? You're going to feel that little bit more comfortable going into that call now, because you do have experience being in a sales situation, but you wouldn't have had that if you were super picky. And so now you've got a much higher chance of closing that e-commerce business because you have experience over if you didn't take that meeting the previous day. I hope that analogy makes sense. I did not plan on saying that, but it just came up in my head then about literally, as I say, a conversation I had yesterday at JITS, right? So it's a very, very important thing to focus on when you're starting out, is just to get experience. Don't cherry pick when you're starting out, right? Focus on acquiring as much cash as you can for the cash itself, but more so because obviously by you receiving cash from a client, that means you're going to have to deliver some kind of service. And that's where your experience is going to come into play. So that's really the main things. I would say the last mistake that I made as an agency owner, and this is more for the experienced agency owners who are at 10,000 a month or whatever, is not starting to run ads earlier. Like I waited till it was at like 35, 40,000 a month, I think, before we started to really push ads, and that was just a huge mistake. Right? Because ads are so untapped. I mean this to acquire clients, to book calls for your agency and sign clients, right? It's just such an untapped arena. And really, at the end of the day, the longer you leave it, the more money you're leaving on the table. I think it's as I say, it's a very, very untapped space. And if you can crack ads, the scale is just ridiculous, right? Because then at that point, you've got a funnel that converts at 10x ROAS, 15 ROI, even a 5 ROI in the low end, 20 ROI, right? Like it's just crazy. And at that point, all you need to do is just spend more and to scale, right? And obviously, because we're in the service-based business as well, we physically can't scale ads as far as we can go, right? We're spending $150 a day, booking in 120, $130 calls per month from $150 a day in ad spend, which is crazy, right? We can't scale those numbers anymore because we can't handle more volume than that, right? It's crazy numbers. And that is one thing that I do wish I implemented on earlier in my agency kind of life, if you like, just because it's just so untapped. There's just so much money to be made. But yeah, that's really, I wouldn't say it's all the mistakes that I've made, but it's definitely the most notable ones. And I think it's the ones that you can benefit from most. I've made a bunch of like smaller stuff and whatnot, but I think these are like the big biggest ideas that you can implement on the most and are the most actionable for you to like literally start implementing on today. Especially the biggest one, I would say the most important one I would say is the inputs and outputs idea. I think that's super important, like super important. Again, especially if you're just starting out. So with that being said, as always, hope you deeply found this video valuable. And if you did watch this video from start to finish, go in the comment section, comment the word input/output down below in the comment section to show me that you actually watched this video from start to finish. It is you guys who watch these videos from start to finish that will benefit from most. So I want to make sure that I see all of you in the comment section. So comment input/output. And as always, if you found this video valuable, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next one.